Hey folks, next project I have in mind is working on the LBSC Tich. I want to build a propane burner for this thing, and now that we've had some success with the one I built for the Raritan, I wanted to try that on the Tich as well. So here's the Tich. Let me switch camera angles here and I'll show you what I'm about to do. All right, here's the back of the locomotive. As you can see, I've got it up on some Altoid tins just to kind of give me a good reach. And down here, if you can see this or not, this is the ash pan, and the grate it sits in there just above. Let me get a flashlight and you'll see. All right, now I've got the flashlight on the ash pan and the grate. You can see the grate pretty clearly. That's the part that sticks down, that little individual lines there. And what I'm planning on doing, like I mentioned, I'd love to build a propane burner, because this thing is so tiny and the smoke box in the front there is so crowded. I really don't want to have to be cleaning out coal dust, and I do want to run this thing, and I'd like to be able to run it simply. So my idea is to take out the ash pan and the grate and see if I can build a very small propane burner that would work. And I'll model it after the one that we built for the Raritan, which I haven't built the Raritan yet, but the propane burner seems to work. So I'm going to take out, there's a pin here that holds the ash pan, and it wasn't a really good design feature, but I used bolts here and a threaded rod all the way across that holds the other part, holds it all, the grate and everything up there. But the bolt hole goes through the brake hangers, which that's, you know, not really good at all as far as design goes, but it works. It provides a function. So let me take this apart and see if we can get that stuff out, and then we can decide. I mean, the nice part about the propane burner, if I can build one that goes in the place where the grate is, there's enough room here. You can see my finger. Let me put the flashlight down. You can see my finger. I mean, there's enough room for a pipe, a Venturi pipe, gas jet, and all that stuff to go underneath here. Got the 1/8" cross rod removed. This was a terrible idea to try to hold the ash pan in. I was thinking I would never have to take this rod out because I could remove this pin and the ash pan would fall down and I could clear it out. But, you know, if you do have to take it apart, it's a terrible idea, because the brakes, you can see they're hanging loose here. You know, that's the point that they hang on. So I think I'm going to go back and make some kind of a special bracket or something like that. That'll be a different mounting pin. Either relocate, we'll figure that out later, but at least now I can, this pin is loose. This is the retaining pin for the ash pan. So I'm going to take the locomotive out of its little stand here and lock it up like I had it a few minutes ago, and I'll remove the ash pan and show you that. It's just with this little wooden bulkhead in place, there's no way to pull that thing out. Okay, here's get the light, I'll show you if we can see here. So you can see the grate and the ash pan, and this is the rod here that holds the ash pan from dropping. We'll pull that out. And now I'm hoping I can pull out the whole assembly. Ash pan and grate and everything. Boy, oh boy, maybe not. I'm pretty happy. A little bit of a break. I got the grate and the ash pan down, got it to slide down. It took a little wiggling. I used a pair of forceps right here, but I got it down that far. So good news, bad news. Bad news is it hasn't fallen all the way out, but the good news is I think all I got to do is take out the brake beam here, and I should be able to remove it completely, which is fine actually, because having the brake beam out of the way will be helpful for fitting the eventual little baby propane burner that I'm... Yay. So let me show you, let me put the light on, show you the space. It's not a lot of space, but I'm very, very excited because now I've got the bottom of the boiler there. I can see and access it. It really was not a big deal to take the brake beam out. Came out just very easily. And then I was able to just lift out the grate and ash pan assembly, which now, I mean, I didn't do a bad job putting this thing together. And who knows, if we can't get it to run on propane, maybe I can get it to run okay on coal, but I want to try the propane first anyway. So this is the ash pan. I forgot. Yeah, it's a steel base, and then I put this brass rim on it. This is what that rod, the through rod, was sort of a pivot for it. So not the worst idea, not the best either, but let's hope we... All right, I've taken the measurements. I'll show you how I did it. Let me put the flashlight on. Got one of these small 6-inch scale rulers, scale, whatever you want to call it, that has a little sliding thing so you can see perhaps at the front of the firebox, and then the T part there. So I measured it, and it's just, I know it's hard to read this way, but it's just slightly over 2 inches. I mean, 2.044. I measured it with my calipers. And then for the width, I used some inside calipers like this and went to the highest width available where it would fit all the way consistently. And it's about 2 inches as well. So looks like I'll be making a 2-inch by 2-inch burner. My plan from here on out is to cut a little block of wood, maybe 3/8 inch wood, thick wood, 2-inch by 2-inch, and I can just place it in there and feel if it's a good fit. And once I have that, then the rest of it will be straightforward enough. For the burner, this is the burner that we built for the Raritan, which is roughly 2 inches by 4 inches. And we found out when I measured yesterday that the space inside the Tich is roughly 2 inches by 2 inches. So I thought I'd do a simple test to see if I could fit a block this size, 2 inches by 2 inches, up in the Tich without removing the boiler, because that's a big part of this equation. And also I did a visualization exercise. I measured 2 inches and put this piece of tape there, because I'm thinking about imitating the same design for the burner, for the propane burner for the Tich. So here's the 2-inch by 2-inch wooden block, and this one is actually thicker. This is only 5/8 inch thick here, this body. Of course, you've got a lot of material with the underneath piping and all that stuff, but this wooden block is thicker, so this kind of gives us a worst case scenario. And I just wanted to show you how I was able to fit it in there. So I taped it to a stick, a pencil, and placing it in, and it's just going in there in the bottom of the boiler. And it's easier with 2 hands, 2 sets of fingers anyway, but there we go. So we've got it, it slides right up in there. Now I have the, with the base all the way up, well, you can't see it with the light, the lack of light. But I did have a light shined in there. Let me put the camera down here. Let's see if I can get a light. Hang on. Oh, I have no idea if that showed up or not, but I was holding the lamp in my mouth. But at least that fits in there. Now there's not a ton of extra room for piping and so forth, so that would be something I have to think about very carefully. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to have all that tubing attached. It simply wouldn't fit. So it's got to be the base, the box of it like that, with little to no tubing attached. And then maybe fit tubing on after the fact. I have to think about that, but that's exactly why I'm doing this. So at least I know what would fit in there. And there's plenty of room once it's in to install a, tubing and ducting. One problem that I figured out, even though there's enough room, the good news is to get a block, a 2-inch by 2-inch block up inside there, there's not a lot of room for piping underneath. So this type of arrangement here is just not going to fit. I would need an extra couple of inches of space to slide something in, and I've got to have the block in this space till I get it all the way close enough so it can slide in. So there's just not a lot of extra clearance. So I'm playing around with some solutions, and here's one idea. I'm thinking about like two gas supply lines, and these are some copper elbows that for 5/16 inch pipe. So first off, I'm playing with some 45-degree angle ones. I've got them taped to my block here, and let's see how that fits in. Yeah, that would work. So the block would fit in, and then the piping would go. I don't know if that would here's my odd-looking mock-up, and I can't lie, I really hope that this thing works. I really think that if this fits, this might be the solution. So here we go, sliding the block in. It fits, it goes up. Oh man, look at that. All right, I don't know if you can see that as good as I can, probably not. Let me get the angle down here. My hands out of the way. So the only bad thing about this is right now those gas ports are like right in line with the brake beam hole, but they're just taped to the bottom of the block. So, if I sink those in there by a 1/4 inch or so, they should be up here, up higher, and that would be even better for clearance. But just doing a little follow-up, playing around with the pressures. You can't see the flame here, but let me turn the light out and you'll be able to see it really well. Look at that. Okay, got all holes, got fire coming out, and here's a side view so you can see. I mean, it's a good at least a 1/2 inch higher in the front, and if you put your hand over there a few inches, it's hot as all get out. So I'm very confident that the burner is worthwhile, and it's got 20 psi coming out of the tank. I put a little mark here to mark exactly where the opening is. I did run the number 77 drill bit through the aperture. Let me turn that down just a wee bit. Let's see if that makes a little difference. There we go. All right. Still looking really good. Turn the light back on. I'm going to shut it down now so you can see the mark here. Let's see how much it was open. Not very much. All right, it's completely closed now. Hang on. So the reason I did that, and turn it back off again. Yeah, it's just a little bit. At the 20 psi, it only takes a crack of about a 20th of a rotation. I mean, just a few degrees. Anyway, what I'm planning on doing now is for the Tich burner, it's basically exactly half the size. So what I'm thinking about doing is doing one more test and get some aluminum foil, wadded up inside here. I'll take the top off, wad the aluminum foil up, block off these burner vents, and see how the airflow and all that works. Because if I can duplicate the feed system essentially, and the pattern and everything works with just a half-size burner, I think that'll be a winner for the Tich. Experimenting for a gas supply tube that would work. This is the size that I used for the Raritan. A plumber would call this a 1/2 inch 90-degree elbow, but the hole size is 5/8 of an inch. This is what they would call a 3/8 inch elbow, and they're harder to find and more expensive, and the hole size is a 1/2 inch. Now I tried it in the center portion, and it runs into the one of the eccentrics here. I'll get the flashlight on so you can see. So I moved it, I offset it to the side a little bit and tried it, and it does fit that way. Here, let me see if I can show you. It's a tight squeeze, but in reality, it would be inset a little bit deeper. I'm not sure, I am worried about its clearance on one of those eccentric straps, but I think if I moved it a little over to the right a little bit and it was sunk in, it would fit okay. So kind of happy about that, because I think I'd rather have just one supply, even if it's off to the side, than the two 5/16 inch tubes. Need to think about that, play with some options, but that's where I'm at right now. Another thing I just did, my friend Russ was over here and we just tested the half-size burner. So let me get that set up and I'll do a demonstration and show you what that looks like. All right, what I did was I took the burner plate off and I wadded up some ordinary tin foil to block up the passages in the back half. This is about the 2-inch mark right here. So I blocked up the back, and then also the other consideration that I need to factor in would be that if the whole unit is half size, then the internal air supply portion that comes through this slot would be limited as well. So I put this shield over the top, and I'm going to cut the camera off, turn the gas on, turn the lights out, and I'll show you. Russ and I just tested this with pretty good results, so let me show you that. All right, got the same 20 psi setting on from the tank, and there is it lights off really good. Let me see if I can block out there we go. So if you can see it, I mean, it's making a horseshoe shaped pattern. The Western 205 valve is just barely opened. So if I increase it, there we go. That's as high as you can increase it without blowing out, and you can't see it probably, but the flame is easily a 1/2 inch high and quite hot. So I think that burner shape and pattern and everything will work just fine. Turn the lights on. All right, tried moving this is what is actually a 1/2 inch ID. Plumbers would call it a 3/8 inch tube. I've offset it there, and I cycled the eccentric, the far right eccentric all the way around, so it's at its highest point and it does not interfere. So I'm going to take this out, do it one more time, cycle the center one that drives the water pump. I'll cycle that to the highest point and see if we have interference. Yeah, I just checked it and it does not interfere. I wanted to show, in case I haven't shown this process. So here we have the mock-up of the 2-inch by 2-inch burner, and this is also thicker, and this is the 3/8 inch tube, which is a 1/2 inch diameter. So now I'm fitting it in, and yeah, it fits in there. So I think this is good. I think something like that may actually work. It's funny, the camera view is so different from my eye view. I think that's going to work. Especially because this will be inset a little bit. I think this is my next step, is to mark this exact position and drill a hole so I can notch that inside, kind of glue it in, kind of complete the mock-up process. Here's the block of wood with the 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch is the proper nomenclature tube in here. It's sunk in about 1/8 of an inch in the block of wood, and I've just got the block of wood very loosely taped up. It's not as tight as it would be, and I'm going around just to make sure I've got clearance, because it's close, but does not interfere. So I'm pretty happy with that. And here's a better mock-up. I put the brake bar in place and just the side pieces in, just so you can see what it looks like. And I've got the bottom of the block flush now with the bottom of the firebox, and there's just about a 1/16 of an inch clearance between the tube here. I've got the copper elbow in, and then this is a 1/2 inch brass tube. I'm thinking this is good. let me take this all apart, and I'll show you what the setup looks like, what the little block looks like. I took the brake bar out, and here's our little imaginary burner assembly. Venturi tube. I even kind of sketched out what I have in mind. So the gas flow would come here. We need to make an L-shaped kind of baffle, and then we need the airspace that's similar to the one for the Raritan. It's a little bit odd with this being offset like this, but I really think that's the way to go. And I'm pretty sure the gas will find its way. And we're only talking about a 2-inch square area. I think the gas will be fine finding its way there. So now I need to draw up the dimensions, specifications for the Venturi, and kind of put this whole thing on paper, and then a couple more sanity checks, and we'll start to make it. So this will be the last segment of this week's episode. And if anybody has experience with burners and stuff like this, if you want to make comments, please do, because I'm wide open to your suggestions. And hopefully you find this interesting. If you do, and you don't have any questions or comments, please give me a thumbs up. As always, I do appreciate that, and it encourages me to keep making the videos, and I will keep you posted on what I think is a very interesting project. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great week.